On today's Locked On Canadiens, as the Four Nations break is coming up, lots of trade talk is going on, and we're going to talk about some potential players the Habs could target in our Friday mailbag.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 1241 of Locked On Canadiens. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $20 off your first purchase. My name is Laura Sab, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. The two of us stayed up really late, so y'all wouldn't have to watch the Canadiens over on the West Coast. They are back. It is almost Super Bowl weekend. What is the biggest story to you, Ian, as we head into the weekend, and after which the Canadiens will get a nice long break?
I think a lot of the Canadiens' future plans for at least this season hinge on how this weekend goes. And that's not to say that Kent Hughes is going to make a snap decision if they lose, 4-0 to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think there's enough of a lagging indicator of how this season has gone where he could make the decision to sell based on what he saw. I think I read earlier today that Elliot Friedman said that Yoel Armia and Jake Evans' names are out there. That usually means that some people are asking about them, and as they should. They are two very valuable players, two, dare I say, elite penalty killing forwards. So I think it's important for the Canadiens to, if the players want to see themselves get rewarded, and maybe on the other side of the Four Nations, maybe not add anybody just yet, but all your buddies are still there. It's really important that they have two solid games against New Jersey and Tampa, and they need points. It can't just be a moral victory. Points are what matter at this point. So there's a lot at stake. It's kind of, while they have fallen out of the mix, this is still a meaningful game in the sense that it will control the destiny of this team between now and the trade deadline on March 7th.
And between now and the end of the season, and between now and the start of next season, right?
Yeah.
For me, it is in our weekly forecast, you had said that the Canadiens really need 6 out of 8 points in the four games coming up, right? So far, they've played 2 games. They've got 2 points. They cannot afford to lose any more games, right? And this is not just about staying in the mix. It's about meaningful progress. If the Canadiens draft 5th overall, or they're in a position to draft 5th overall 3 years in a row, you've made 0 progress, right? First year, it was not in their hands, and they ended up, going all the way to last place. They picked 1st overall, and then after that, you're supposed to start steadily increasing, or you're supposed to start steadily improving. And there's still a lot of question marks about this team. There's still a lot of question marks about what the roster is going to look like next year, the year, 2 years from now, or the year when they finally start contending for a Stanley Cup. You really do not. And this is the thing, we talked about it yesterday. It is not a joke. You do not want to become the Buffalo Sabres. You do not want to become any of those perpetual rebuild teams. A lot of them figure it out eventually. Think about how much, how terrible Florida was for how long before now they're a juggernaut in the NHL,
before
right?
they raided the Buffalo Sabres and became a Stanley Cup champion. You know what I mean? You cannot be the Montreal Expos is what you can't do. You can't be the farm team for the rest of the league like Buffalo had become.
Yes.
And
I mean,
Vegas.
Still be. Yeah. Vegas
exactly.
won Stanley, you know what I mean? So you really don't want to be that, right? And the Canadiens have a lot to prove. And it's also like, the thing is, we can't call it on Ottawa or Detroit right now, because there's still a lot of potential for them to make the playoffs and make some noise in the playoffs. The last I checked, Ottawa was firmly, solidly in a playoff spot. And for me, unless they fall out of it, for me, it would be delayed, right? This is a couple of years after they were supposed to be where they are. But it's delayed, but you also want to avoid that, because what you really want to do when you're coming in is you want to leapfrog them. You want to be able to not just contend with your Torontos, who hopefully will be on a downswing by then. You want to be able to contend with an Ottawa or a Detroit that's weaker than you, because you made smarter decisions. You had better staff, you had better personnel, you had better players, and you developed them better. Like, because at the end of the day, it's all going to be around the same time. So for me, I need to see progress this season. That's what I'm looking at. Yes, it is a little bit alarming to our hearts and our sentimentality that Yoel Armia and Jake Evans are out there, as Elliot Friedman put it. I think it's totally fair. And out there could mean anything. It could just mean that Kent Hughes is not hanging up in your face when you call him.
Yeah.
Or it could mean Kent Hughes put in the group chat, give me your best offers for Jake Evans or Yoel Armia or whatever.
Man, to have access to that group chat, huh? Every time it's mentioned, I wish I was a computer hacker and could find a way into that group
I
chat.
need to see it. I need to see it. I need to steal one of their phones and see it.
I need to see the memes. They're sending memes in there. There's some tomfoolery happening. Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to know who like secretly hates each other and is like really passive aggressive in that chat. That's what I want to know.
And they break off and they make a separate chat that's them and like a friendly team. Like, can you get a load of this guy? Also, just the thought of Lou Lamoriello being in a group chat, one of the funniest thoughts you can have. I don't know how they had to teach him how to use WhatsApp. Yeah, like yeah. I don't. That's wild. Just the concept of an 80-plus-year-old man doing that is just crazy to me.
It's really funny. For me though, I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah,
like, do you think that like there's a side chat, or there was at some point, there was a side chat with all the GMs except Kyle Dubas? Because that is one of when he was GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is like in my head, that's canon.
Do you think that this is the last thing I'll say on this, but it is a very funny idea. So Kyle Dubas was the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then he left. He was no longer a GM, and then he came back pretty quick. Like by the end of the summer, he was in Pittsburgh. Do you think that when they deleted him from the chat and then brought him back, do you think he got access to all the prior history of the chat and saw all the smack talk? They like, man, Kyle sucks at this. Like, do you think all of that ended up in there? I really
hope so.
I hope so too. I hope that they gave him the full history. Anyway, that's a really fun aside that I think we needed to start this episode with. Back to the Canadiens and whether or not they're in the mix. For the first time this year, I have pulled up Tankathon, the website that runs the draft lottery simulator and shows you what place everybody is in. Montreal currently holds the 11th pick in the draft this year, based on where they are in the standings. However, they have 55 points. They are 2 points away from being in 6th. So kind of right back where they were last year, despite the fact that they've taken, much improved strides in certain areas. They'd be fighting with Buffalo for the 5th overall pick again, with almost the same guys in front of them. Seattle, Nashville. Nashville's new, at least. They were usually behind Montreal. Seattle, Nashville, Chicago, San Jose. Like, they're right in that conversation again. But at least among those teams, Montreal at least had a period of this season where you could see the vision come to life, right? Like the rest of the, I think San Jose gets there. That Macklin Celebrini's incredible. That was it was awesome to get to see him, play against Montreal earlier this week. That's a stud. He's going to be fine. I think that team is going to be fine. Chicago kind of remains to be seen. I don't really buy what Kyle Davidson's up to. I don't really know what he has done well other than strip it down and then give way too much money to veterans who didn't deserve it.
Right. I mean, he got Connor Bedard. He got lucky.
Yeah, he won a lottery. He had that improved their standings. The poor Ducks, got kicked out of that. They were in the number 1 spot. So to your point, like these are the fact that like Chicago is still bottom 4 this deep into this is concerning. Like San Jose's whatever. They're at least I believe in that build a little bit more. Nashville being there at all.
Prospects.
Yeah. Nashville being there at all, horrifying. They spent so much money. They still have a lot of cap space, but the plan was for them to be good now. And they have the 3rd overall pick if the draft happened right now. That's shocking. Like that's the sort of thing that Montreal needs to be able to avoid, is spending all that money in the summer when they're ready to compete, only for it to not fit at all with what they want to do.
Exactly. And so I think there is one positive to what you said. You said for the first time this year, I pulled up Tankathon. It is
Yeah,
February 6th, 2025, right?
yeah,
This,
great point.
last season, you had Tankathon open at the end of October, and you know
October 11th, that thing was open, and I was
it.
just cranking lottery simulations. Yeah,
So in some ways, yes, there is a little bit of progress. I'm not counting the Canadians out of the mix just yet, but it's going to be a tough road. What I really want to see though is down the stretch, I really want to see them still work hard at it. I want to see them play really hard. I want to see them be in every game. I want to see not every game not be a foregone conclusion. And as we're going to talk about in the mailbag, there might be some things that the Canadians can do for the future and beyond to kind of change their fortunes a little bit. And we will get into that in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. Looking for tickets to your next big event? Whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Gametime Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Gametime Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I'm grateful to my co host for going through this channel to get us tickets. We're going to go see a game together along with our former co host, and that's all thanks to Gametime. Gametime Picks has so many things that are so easy to use about it. The curated deals make it super simple. You'll find all the tickets at great price. You don't have to sit through thousands and thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat and I could not believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view feature is a game changer as well, because before you even buy it, you can see what your seat will look like at the venue. And you can also toggle all in pricing, so you will see all the prices up front and no hidden fees. The best part is you're covered with Gametime's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so it is Friday. It is time for our mailbag. We will try very hard to think and give you thoughtful answers to these questions, even though this week was a nightmare for sleep. Thanks, Montreal, not Montreal, the NHL schedule makers.
yeah, Gary specifically. This is Gary's
Yes,
fault.
it's all Gary's fault.
Yeah,
Whatever AI button he pressed to make this happen.
yeah.
All right, Ian, what do we have? We had some thoughtful questions, and some of these questions are because we missed a couple in the past couple of weeks. We are bringing them up now because they are still relevant.
Yeah, lots of trade interest. I think it's the time of year for it. We're seeing a lot of teams make some really big moves, and some folks are starting to wonder if Montreal is going to be next on that list. Obviously, we talked about Dylan Cousins yesterday, but Claude Sauvé asks, would you consider submitting an offer sheet for Noah Dobson in the offseason? The Islanders are up against the cap and may not be able to match. I don't think the Habs would have any trouble absorbing the compensatory picks. I understand that Dobson at 25 is the type of player they would like to build around. But that being said, he's going to look for a massive bump in salary, and the Islanders have one of the oldest rosters in the league and could use an influx of youth. Where are you at on? I hear the term offer sheet, and now I shudder because of how it played out in the past. But it seems like it's becoming a more maybe not well respected tool, but one that teams use more often. We saw two of them against the same team by the same team this summer in St. Louis, stealing some guys from Edmonton. Where are you at on offer sheeting a guy like Noah Dobson?
So I feel like if Kent Hughes offer sheets a New York Islander, the next day he's going to wake up with a horse head in his bed.
Yeah.
But I think it's really intriguing. I really like the idea of Noah Dobson, Montreal Canadian. I don't know if it would finish at just the compensatory picks though, because I feel like there's going to be a little bit of bad blood, a little bit of animosity,
Sure.
just based on who these teams are. And for me, like one of the biggest things is that the Canadians do have cap space, but they're going to have to rework their vision,
Mhm.
right? It is he would be an amazing Montreal Canadian. But I think the direction, maybe who he plays with, maybe some of the prospects that they were planning on keeping, like that kind of thing, I think that the Canadians would have to rework that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think that the Canadians come into next season with a very different decor. I think that they're seeing now, especially with Caden Gooley out, but even while he was playing, they don't really have an option right now on the right side. And Logan Mailloux is proving to not be an option right now on the right side. The defensive aspect of his game just isn't there. And can the Montreal Canadiens count on him next season when they need it to be there? I don't know. I don't think so. Can they count on David Reinbacher potentially stepping in and being a third pairing defenseman? Maybe. We haven't seen him enough. So I'm not sure what the play is there. I do like where the thought is at on that kind of move. And I think the one thing that I really like about this is I think it's very likely that Lou Lamoriello is not the general manager this summer for the New York Islanders. Things have gone poorly. They've jumped back in a little bit now. I think they could possibly make the playoffs, but that roster, like Claude said, it's not a young roster. They're up against it salary wise. They don't know if they're going to be able to keep them. Even with the cap going up might help the Islanders case, but the reason I mentioned Lou Lamoriello possibly leaving is that's sort of what happened with the Oilers and the Blues over the summer. Is they hired a new general manager, and in that chaos, this unfolded, and it kind of caught the Oilers with their pants down. They didn't know what to do. They had to. They could have made some trades to make space. I think they traded. Did they trade away Cody Ceci, and then they didn't even they just traded him away and then got halfway through an idea and went, well, we can't match anyway, so bye.
I think that's what started happening.
Happens.
They started making moves to mitigate that or to match, and they just abandoned that idea.
Yeah, no, and I think they'd be looking when you make an offer sheet this summer. It means it's picks in 26 that become the currency in that deal. That puts even more pressure on this next season for the Montreal Canadiens, that they have to be a good hockey team, that they have to be a playoff team. That pick cannot be a lottery pick, because you cannot lottery protect picks that go in offer sheet compensation. They just go. It's not a trade. You could trade for them and maybe make it a little easier, add in some of those things, avoid some of that bad blood. But I think, Kent Hughes is crafty. I think they will use every tool at their disposal to figure out how to improve this hockey team. And I just think that especially on the right side, I think the defense is going to look much different next year. The only guy returning on the right side and playing a regular role in the NHL next year might be Alex Carrier, a guy that wasn't here 2 months ago. So it's kind of they're kind of turning it over anyway, right?
Yes, I'm Googling where Kent Hughes went to law school.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, it must have been somewhere good because he figured out all the conditions in that Calgary pick. By the way, just wake me up when that pick is ready to go. I do not care until we know exactly when that pick is being made.
He went to Boston College, apparently.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So I do think that Kent Hughes, coming from that law background, will literally look at every single tool, find an obscurity, figure out a way to make it work. I don't know yet that they're at that point. I think we're panicking, or not panicking. We're kind of, we're questioning, and he's not questioning. He's not at that point yet.
I think that if the Canadiens are going to strike, it's going to be in the next few years. If you think Noah Dobson is your guy, you cannot afford to miss on it. You're going to get one chance to get him. It's this summer. So that's the level of urgency there. It comes off as panic, but it's more so that's our guy. We have to go get him. And we don't even know that that's true. We don't know that Noah Dobson is a guy that they're targeting. We don't know that. They're obviously not allowed to talk to him. That's tampering. But if they determine this is the path we need to go, they need to act now. And that's the level of urgency that this is coming with. That's true for a lot of these guys that are restricted free agents coming in. And that's a move that Kent Hughes likes to make. Kirby Dach was an RFA coming in. Alex Newhook was an RFA coming in. So he likes to make those moves and grab a guy who's, yes, a free agent, but still under team control. with Dobson, you'd be trading away a lot. You'd want pretty much an assurance that he's coming with a contract. That's the only difference.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. So like offer sheet is obviously the way to go in that scenario, but trade is probably going to make it a lot more palatable, a lot make it easier and more likely to happen. More likely to happen. Anyways, we have many more mailbag questions that are coming up in just a moment. All right, we have more questions centered around trade targets. 'Tis the season, I guess. So we had one, which I like the idea, but I think is really unlikely. So let's talk about Ryan Leonard.
Yeah, let's do it. This comes from Jay. Just a thought: if you could see Hughes trading Jake Evans, to a cup contender for a draft pick, and then packaging that pick to flip it to take a run at Dylan Cousins. We'll start there. I don't know that's the thing that Buffalo is interested in. We still don't really know. There was another instance of making that kind of trade, and I don't think this was Jay's question. I'm still looking for it. My apologies. To take that pick and go after Ryan Leonard,
Yes.
a player that Montreal was interested in back in at the draft. It was from what Arpon Basu said this week on the Basu and Godin notebook. It was either Leonard or Reinbacher. Those were the two guys Montreal was going to walk away with at that draft. I think I found it here. Yes.
Yeah,
This is actually
Aaron.
this is from Aaron. A good win-win trade idea and would like your thoughts. Montreal acquires Ryan Leonard from the Washington Capitals, and Montreal trades Jake Evans, David Savard, and Calgary's 2025 pick. You could also swap out either of those players with Dvorak, Armia, or Anderson. The reasoning of this trade is the Caps will gain 2 depth pieces for a playoff run of one of Ovechkin's last playoff runs, and take a first-round pick to keep their future stable. Montreal gets their future second-line center who can play with Line and Demidov, solidifying their second line. Leonard was a favorite of mine and was hopeful for the pick in 2023. I like Ryan Leonard a lot too. I think that's a really good player.
I love this idea. I don't think the Caps will go for it, but I love the idea.
Yeah.
I especially if that's all they're trading away.
Yep.
It's because you're not getting Jake Evans. You're getting like 2 months or 4 months of Jake Evans. You're not getting, Yoel Armia or Dvorak or whatever. You're getting the remainder of their contract. So it's really that Calgary pick that's going to be the meat of that deal. Wherever it ends up, I don't know where it's going to land. We agreed we're not going to do the math, and somebody's going to tell us. So for me, from my perspective, I literally love the idea of like picturing that as him as a second line center. In that scenario, where's Kirby Dach gone? He's gone. Gone. So the conversations that we're having now in this market are, who do they replace Kirby Dach with? Essentially, we had the Dylan Cousins conversation yesterday. We're having now thoughts about Ryan Leonard. I don't know what the Canadiens decide to do with Kirby Dach.
I don't know either. I don't think that it would be in a deal like this. I do think that the Capitals are interested in Jake Evans. They tried to trade for him last year at the draft. Frank Cervalli reported that apparently the offer was a second-round pick for Jake Evans. I can see why the Canadiens held on to him because I think his value has only increased since then.
What a great
the
year.
Market may dictate a lot of that, but it seems like they might be able to hold on to him longer and get more out of a team closer to the trade deadline because a lot of teams have gotten their business done already. Washington being one of them. They reacquired Lars Eller, a guy who was a depth center for them on their cup-winning team. That's sort of the role
who scored the cup-winning goal.
Yeah, it was him, and then a few years later, Lehkonen did it. Like, it's not fair. It's not fair. Anyway.
But that's what's going to happen to Jake Evans. He's going to get traded somewhere, and then he's going to score the cup-winning goal.
Yoel Armia is going to score the sickest game-winning, Stanley Cup-winning goal for the Dallas Stars this year, and you can book it. Like, Yoel Armia is, like, I think in my brain, that is a Dallas Star. I don't know why I've come to that conclusion. Maybe it's because he's Finnish and they have a bunch of teams there, but he's definitely a Dallas Star.
He's got Dallas Stars vibes.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'd like to see both of these guys come back next year, by the way. Even if they get traded, we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but they're trading away the 2 forwards on their top penalty kill unit. They're going to be losing David Savard. The penalty kill unit is going to be brand new next year if they don't bring some of these guys back. Even if they replace them, it's still brand new.
Isn't it terrifying?
It's very scary to be thinking about that because it's already like it's fine. Their penalty killing's fine. They're scoring a lot shorthanded, which is super fun. But like the reason why a team like Washington would want these guys or a team like Dallas would want these guys is the same reason Montreal should have them next year. So
Yes.
it's
So,
really going to be a balance. They have to figure that out.
and I really wonder if that's why we heard some noise about the Montreal Canadiens and Jake Evans discussing future contract. And then that noise died down. Is maybe they kind of, decided to have a feeling out period. What do you want? What are you looking for? Here's what we're willing to offer. That's great, good, but we're not going to sign you so we can trade you, and then you can come back in the summer and unless you get an offer better than what we just put on the table.
Yeah.
That's like in my head, that's how that worked out because I do not want to lose Jake Evans. Do we have any more mailbag questions for this
Yeah,
week?
let's get a
We
couple
have,
more in here.
yeah.
Curtis asks, if you
Mhm.
could transport 3 Canadiens players from their Stanley Cup run in the 70s and 80s onto the current team, whom would you choose? For me, it's Guy Lafleur, Larry Robinson, and Craig Ludwig. Any thoughts on that?
You absolutely need Larry Robinson because this team
1000%.
cannot play defense.
Yeah.
Guy Lafleur has to be a staple. And honestly, like, don't get mad at me, but I think Patrick Roy, he counts.
How
He
could you
won a
get
cup
mad?
in the
How
86.
could anybody be mad at that thought?
It just
Like
it would signify that I don't have faith in Dobish or Samuel Montembeault. I just,
it's Patrick Roy
Patrick
over
Roy.
like a 22-year-old goalie and Sam Montembeault. Like I
Yeah.
like Sam Montembeault too, but he's riding the bench if Patrick Roy is back on this team.
There you go.
Um,
So
uh,
that those are my three choices.
you're bang on with Lafleur and Robinson. There's no touching those. I'm gonna add Steve Shutt to the roster. I
Oh,
think
nice.
that's a goal scorer, just a pure goal scorer. I think he was the last Canadian to score 60 goals. That
I believe that was a trivia question we had.
Yeah, probably. Steve Shutt
Yeah.
should be in the should have his number retired. The fact that he doesn't is still criminal.
Mhm.
They should retire that number. Anyway, that would be my pick. I'd put Steve Shutt there.
Awesome.
Let's see. We had one on. I'm trying to find it. Apologies. Remember, we did not sleep at all.
Yes.
We had one on
2 nights in
nicknames.
a row. 2
Yeah,
nights. 2 nights.
I will not get over this. We had one about nicknames. Someone wanted us to build our top nickname team. Maybe just name a couple nicknames that you really enjoyed that have been on the Montreal Canadiens while I try to look for the person who asked this question.
The all nickname team. I think it
It's
was,
Max Richer. Max
yes.
Richer. Apologies for not having
Um,
it. Our inbox is full. Again, no
yes.
sleep.
I love this one because he includes, like, something we used to, because, like, Plekanec's nickname was Plex, right? And he said, "Doesn't matter," had Plex as one of the nicknames.
Yeah,
And then Wolverine, obviously Max Pacioretty, because he had this, ability to heal overnight from insane injuries. Who
yeah.
was Cakes? He says Cakes.
Cakes
Who
is
was
a
Cakes?
deep cut. That's Yuri Seacatch.
Are you serious?
That's a deep cut because Seacatch is Cakes backwards.
Whatever happened to him?
They
Uh,
traded him to Anaheim for who was it? It was Devontae Smith-Pelly.
yeah, and then he, like,
Yep.
played in, like,
And he's
I
gone.
don't know. Yeah,
And he's
he's
gone.
gone. He doesn't exist.
It's kind of the same era of Canadians. Thomas Fleischman being Meat Man was always funny. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed that one. Um,
Meat Man.
hockey nicknames are typically just bad, huh? It's
Yeah.
just like the first sound of your name with a Y at the end.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
super great. Any others that pop off? I mean, Montembeault being Snacks is pretty great.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's like, is there a story behind it, or is it they just started calling him that? I don't know, because he doesn't seem, I don't know, he seems very jolly. Anyways, I honestly I can't think of any right now, and I think it's because of lack of sleep. All right, we're gonna think about this, and next week we're gonna come up with a starting lineup that is all nickname guys, including
Yes.
goaltenders.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do
Yeah.
it. All right. You
Awesome.
want to do our trivia and get out of here and maybe go to bed?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Just so the listeners know, it is currently 6 p.m. on Thursday. We're
Yeah.
immediately going to, at least I am. I'm gonna face plant right after this.
Operating on 7 hours of sleep over the last 2 nights combined. It's not
Yeah.
going well.
No.
Anyway, yesterday's question. This former Montreal Canadian made his NHL debut on the Canadiens' annual Western road trip on November 30th, 2011. He played in Anaheim in his NHL debut. The following night, he played in San Jose, and picked up his first NHL point in his third game on December 3rd, 2011, and assists in the game-winning goal against the LA Kings. Who is this player? I will give former co-host of this show, Scott Battle, the credit for having it first. He did text it to me first thing this morning, and also Good Sport had it as well. It is Louis LeBlanc, much maligned first-round pick Louis LeBlanc, who did not have much of an NHL career, but the goal is funny. Can I read you how the goal read out?
Yes.
Andre Kostitsyn from Lars Eller and Louis LeBlanc. It was a secondary assist. That line is like the enigma line. Like that was just thinking of those three players at that point in the Canadiens' history. Man, that's brutal.
It's bringing
really
up memories, not all of them good.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right. Today's question, I'm pulling from my trivia book here. Canadian center Brian Skrudland holds the NHL record for the quickest overtime goal scored in the playoffs. How soon into overtime did he put an end to Game 2 of the 1986 Stanley Cup Finals? So Game 2, 1986 Stanley Cup Final, Brian Skrudland has the NHL record for the quickest overtime goal in the playoffs. How soon into the period did he score the goal? If you have the answer, put it in the comments. You know how to reach us. We'll shout you out on the next episode of the show.
And that's it for today's show. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast so that you can get the answer to that trivia question, or that we can shout you out. We will be back on Monday with a recap of the weekend's games. The Four Nations break is coming up, but we have lots of fun stuff planned, lots of collaborations, a couple of guests we have in mind. So make sure you are subscribed and tell everybody. You can also find us all over social media. We are Locked On Canadiens everywhere, on Blue Sky, on TikTok, on Instagram. Our Gmail is Locked On Canadiens. Send us mailbag questions. Send us, just fun stuff. If you're going to be going to one of the games this weekend with your family, let us know. All of that. So you can find my co-host all over social media at Maybe It's Ian. You'll find me at The Active Stick. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you hopefully after having had a lot of sleep. Oh, and we're going to be on Game Over this weekend on Saturday after that game, which is against New Jersey, if I'm remembering correctly. And we will see you all next time.